Hey, everybody, it's Danny Roebuck. Hopefully my face is familiar to you, but of course you're listening to this, so hopefully my voice is familiar too. You are listening to Chris Contra on the RockStop.
Welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here. Joining me on the program today is a very accomplished actor. He's performed roles in just about every genre of film and TV that you can think of. The 1986 indie classic River's Edge, 1993's blockbuster hit The Fugitive, the critically acclaimed TV crime drama Matlock, just a few of the titles he's starred in over the years. And soon you will see him as Grandpa Munster in the upcoming film adaptation of the 1960s classic TV series The Munsters. I'd like to welcome to the show Daniel Roebuck. How's it going, man?
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Listen, do me a favor, write that down, and when I die, send that to whoever's doing my eulogy. I like that.
I always try to do a good intro for my guests.
Thank you, my friend. Very good.
So, I was thinking about it, and, being a top character actor as you are, you could play pretty much any part. You're a very versatile type of guy. And I was thinking about, big-time actors like Stallone or De Niro. They really can't do that. I mean, yeah, they're the huge names and stuff, but they can't do what you really do.
Well, and I think it's two things. I think you mentioned two very good actors. You go back to Stallone and Rocky, and I mean that's just perfect. Like you couldn't make that performance better. But as Stallone became the Stallone, he found a way of doing more and more of that kind of stuff. De Niro, he's an interesting cat because he's also like he takes a leading role and he makes it a character role. Like you think of. But this is my 59-year-old king of comedy was what I was trying to say.
Okay. Like
Rupert Pupkin is definitely not a movie star kind of guy. So right. They could do it, but then they're kind of they get into this habit and then they can't get out of it because they're paid a certain amount of money to do the thing that they do. And the problem is for any actor, being a character actor or a movie star, if you live at a certain level and you require that level constantly, you have to do, what you do to stay at that level.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And plus, there's the fact like, audiences, when they see, Stallone come on screen, he can't just, play the lead detective of, an investigation when he's not the star of the movie. People will get taken right out of the story,
Yeah, it's just that's what I mean. And there's sometimes it's weird. Like De Niro did Rocky and Bullwinkle, right? And he did this character, and it was like, it just seemed uncomfortable. I don't like when people. I shouldn't say that. What I guess I'm saying is, they can do anything, but they have to be. You have to have a director who can utilize your talents. But anyway, look, God is good. The thing that I wanted to be my whole life is what I am. And that's a very good place for anybody to be. And I don't take any credit for it myself. So many people have helped me along the way. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to be here and to be in a position to have a conversation with you and your audience to some extent, because it's just nice to remind people that, anything can happen if you remain gracious and happy and healthy and, positive.
Right. And set your mind on God, like you said, you've been blessed, obviously, with this great talent where you can, act and share your talents with audiences and in many, many different roles. A lot of people may not know the name Daniel Roebuck, but they certainly know your face.
Yeah, I think that's a fact. Although, there's one time I was with my buddy Dwayne Whitaker, another very great, hold on, let me rephrase it. I was going to say another very great character actor. Let's say a great character actor. I shouldn't use another in front of that. There was an acting teacher who's, I've been writing this book. I'm going to get back to Dwayne. I'm going to get back to this point. So I'm writing a book called The Audition is a Job and Other Truths That I've Learned in the Land of Make-Believe. And, it's to help actors primarily focusing on what's the most important thing and remove from their consideration what's not important, like what you'll do when you get the job or how you'll tell your friends off or how you'll quit your job, all the things that people think of instead of just going in there and doing the best audition. Right? Yeah. So I'm writing a chapter now called Beware Snake Oil Salesman, and I study a lot of acting teachers, and because because many of them shouldn't be teaching acting. Oh, and there's a teacher in his video. He says, you got to just watch the great actors, Pacino, De Niro. Watch my stuff. it's like it's not said with like. So I caught myself saying Dwayne was another great character actor.
I gotcha.
That's not my place to say. Uh-huh. We were walking down Hollywood Boulevard when you still could, when you didn't have to dodge drug addicts like you do now.
Right.
And we're walking, and these two people from Japan, Japanese, I would guess, because they did not speak English by any, we could see that.
Yeah.
They came out, they stopped, and they pointed at me, and the girl said, Daniel Roebuck. And then she turned and said something in Japanese to her man, and the man said something in Japanese to her. And so we took pictures, and it was very sweet, and they were very nice. We're walking away, and Whitaker said, if there's such a thing as critical mass, we may have just witnessed. When people who don't speak your language say your name.
Yeah.
And it was like, you have to, and you can only have a moment of gratitude. Yeah, you got to be like, wow, you're right. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That's something. I got off a plane. I went down to do a movie called Palau, the movie about the great Christian man named Luis Palau, a great pastor and preacher who had a worldwide following. And I literally stepped off the gangway in Buenos Aires. And the first step into the airport, a guy said, Daniel Roebuck lost, and then spoke Spanish after that. So you just never know what's playing where. And I've been doing this so long. I'm exactly what I want it to be, the William Wyndham of my generation. Every day something's on TV somewhere where you're like, reminded that that's the guy. Anyway,
right, and it's not just one role. They're usually it's probably not the same role that all these people are recognizing you from. It could be anything. You've done so many movies.
You're making a very good point. Yeah, and I could usually tell by their age or other factors what it is they might recognize me from, just because I've been living life in this body for 40 years, and I've had people approach me for 40 years about this stuff. So I'm a pretty good reader of when I see them walking toward me. I think in my head Matlock or Nash Bridges or Lost or Rob Zombie movies.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned William Wyndham, who is a major character actor. Like, there's another guy that's it's similar to you. Yeah, people may not know his name, but you've certainly seen him in things. I remember him from that Twilight, one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes. It was 5 characters in search of an exit. Have you seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, have I seen it? Yes. Chris, I've seen it. If it's the Twilight Zone, the Munsters, the Honeymooners, the Odd Couple, I have seen it. That's how I learned to become an actor, watching great TV.
Yeah.
But William Wyndham, people say to me in the Lehigh Valley where I'm from, where I make my movies now, they'll say, I remember you saying you were going to be a movie star. And I say, I never said I was going to be a movie star. All I ever said, and I knew that at 17, 16, 15, all I said was, I want to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And William Wyndham was that actor, like that guy who's just in everything and, makes a... Look, I put 2 kids through college, one through college, one, as through college as he wanted to go, through Catholic school for, I've been very blessed to be able to utilize these gifts God gave me to raise a family and be part of a community and, do what's called upon us as fellow human beings to do.
Gotcha. Yeah. And one of your earliest roles that really probably the movie I've seen you in, I mean, that I've rewatched probably that more than any, is River's Edge. That's a movie, like, each time you watch it, you kind of notice different things, and it's just so well done, River's Edge. How did you get that part?
Well, first, it's a great director, Tim Hunter. And it was a great script by Neil Jimenez. So, there's the first movie I did wasn't River's Edge. It was called Cave Girl, and that's also a movie that keeps coming back again and again. It keeps getting released on DVD. I think there's a Blu-ray coming out of it. I was in Cave Girl, not a great movie, but my first movie, and it led to me getting a manager team, and Wayne Rice, who has been part of my life since about 1986 till now, submitted me for River's Edge, and they didn't know who I was, and the truth is, I did the first time I took maybe not the first time, but I took an enormous gamble in that this person you're talking to is not Samson Tollet. The character couldn't be more different. Who I was at 21 even. Mm-hmm. I'm 59 years old. I still never smoked marijuana. I stopped drinking so many years ago. Obviously I don't do any drugs. I'm not good at eating vegetables either. I don't do that. But I make these points not to crow, but to say that I was not the kid in River's Edge. But at that point, I still did drink, and I went to that audition completely in character. I bought 2 beers on my way to the audition and put them in my coat pocket. And when I walked in the room, there was a chair and a video camera pointing at the chair. And I walked past the chair, and I literally sat in the corner. I don't know what made me do it. It's just what I did. It's my instinct. I sat on the floor in the corner, and I said to the director, "Go ahead." And Tim grabbed the video camera, which back in 1986 was kind of like grabbing Volkswagen and putting it on your shoulder. Yeah. And he started videotaping, and I think I completely convinced them that I was that person.
Wow.
Which, was kind of the second time that it worked. The first time was, on Cave Girl. Believe it or not, I was reading for a small part, and we were all reading in the same room because they had never done a movie, so they didn't know that that's not how you audition for a movie. You should audition people individually. Yeah, right. But we kind of read like a community theater audition where everybody's in the same room watching everybody audition. And when everybody was done, I went up a couple times to read for my little part as the director was mixing and matching. And then the director, David Oliver, very nice man, he said, "Okay, did everybody read what they wanted to read?" Which, Chris, was a question.
Right.
So the answer evidently was my hand was in the air. And he's, yes. And I said, could I read for the lead? And, he was like, I guess so. So then all 35 people in the room had to put their crap down and sit back down. And then I read for the lead, and guess what? I got the lead.
Wow. Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was only about, he asked a question. At no point did I raise my hand and say, I demand to read for the lead, or I think no offense to all these other guys in the room, but I don't really see the character yet. Maybe you do, but he obviously didn't either. The character was supposed to be funny, but they had all these great looking guys reading the part, and it just wasn't in their bailiwick,
Yeah, yeah. So you sort of saw an opportunity there, and you said, why not?
And took it.
And yeah, right.
And on River's Edge, I saw an opportunity and took it. And when I left, I took the other beer out of my pocket, and I kind of handed it to Tim Hunter as I left. And, that was a time the people putting up money, I guess, wanted Chris Penn to be in the movie, who is Sean's brother, who had, was breaking in at the same time I was. Chris went out, or the producers went out, and it ended up being me. So, then I'm a 21-year-old completely out of my league with a great director like Tim Hunter, great actor like Crispin Glover, great, monumental actor like Dennis Hopper.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Keanu and
I just want to say though, you say you're out of your league, but I mean, you certainly held your own. I mean, you said you're very different than the character of Samson, but it goes to show your acting ability that you really took that character. You're very scary in the movie. He seemed definitely unhinged. You clearly are unhinged, and you captured that perfectly. I mean, like I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Samson.
Oh, that's very kind. Well, again, let's give credit. Like let's take myself out of the middle of the story and realize that, I was working with top-notch material and a great director who directed the performance. I give him all the credit. And then so a thing happens. I see this on my own movies. I bring in ringers when I make these movies, but I still give people in an opportunity. They don't even have to be people in the Lehigh Valley, but that's where I make the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier if you're in the Lehigh Valley because I'm easier for me to find you. But and I'm talking about this place in Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, where I'm from. And Chris, I bring in the ringers and then the people act at the level of the ringer. Like they start watching, how does the ringer do it?
Yeah.
Meaning like Marsha D. Line or Dwayne Whitaker, or Tim Goodwin, or these great professional actors that I surround my actors with. And that was me. Like with Dennis Hopper, Dennis Hopper is operating at a level way above my consciousness, beyond my wildest dreams. So,
were you a little intimidated, when you had some scenes with Dennis?
100%.
Yeah.
And I had 90% of the scenes with Dennis were with me.
Right.
And I was absolutely intimidated, but he made sure that he treated me just like another actor, which means, by the way, he made fun of me sometimes. He allowed me to make fun of him.
Yeah.
He'd say, Roebuck, you gotta whatever, and I'd say, Dennis, a younger actor could actually see the mark you missed when you were walking into the scene, But here's the joke about it: he was 5 years younger than I am now. He wasn't old. It's hard.
It's pretty crazy to think of when you put it in that context.
Yes. And I was. Crispin was younger than me. Keanu was younger than me. Ione was like 15. Roxana was 15. Josh was, I think, 19 or 20. The only guy older than me was Phil Brock by a year, but Phil wasn't in that main group of five. He was he worked in the store, but very good actor. And so I was like the old man on the movie. And by the way, at the end of the day, I was the one who went home to a wife and like a middle class house apartment.
Yeah.
None of them had that. Crispin Glover had a gynecologist table in his living room. At the end of the night, I would go back and I'd kiss my wife hello and say, "How was your day, honey?" And
So it's like this teen movie, but here you were like the adult.
Right. I mean, then for years they didn't do that at all. If it was a teen movie, we were the last of that generation.
Yeah.
They were teens until now. When you watch Glee, I mean, I went to do an episode of Glee, and once I was standing next to some of these people, I was like, "Holy crap! These people are like 30. They're like 30 years old, and they're playing high school kids."
Right.
But,
yeah.
We've learned that you don't really have to cast a specific age. You have to cast a lot of people who look the same, and then you've solved your problem.
Yeah, I guess so. Right.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little more on Crispin Glover, just because the guy, he's hard to kind of gauge as far as like outside of character. Like every time I see like an interview, I'm like, is he doing a character right now? I can't really tell sometimes. What kind of guy was he during the filming? Like, his real person.
Well, I think Crispin is an extremely intelligent. By the way, there's actors who are actors, and there's actors who, again, operate at a level. Crispin, oddly, I had occasion to speak to him the other day. And we hadn't had a chance to connect for many years. But there's a project I'm directing that, I don't think that's I went to him because I want to have the best actor in this particular role.
Yeah.
So I reached out to an old friend who's a best actor. Crispin is he's the son of two artists. His father, Bruce Glover, is a fantastic actor. His mother was, if I remember correctly, a visual artist. I think she was a painter. Bruce painted too, probably. Anyway, he grew up in a house of artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he only ever knew that. When we were making the movie, I was completely entertained by him. I remember we called him Crispy Critters. I think Josh Richmond is the one who named him Crispy Critters. And that's what we called him while we were shooting. He was doing that character, and I saw Back to the Future. With all respect to Jeffrey Weissman, Crispin Glover, it's one of the reasons the movie's great.
Yeah.
Like, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and Crispin Glover are the glue of that movie. Tom Wilson's great. Leah Thompson's great. Yes, of course. But Crispin is so great in Back to the Future, doing a character as original as, you didn't see it again, by the way, until John Hader as Napoleon Dynamite. That you went, I don't know where this came from, but I know this guy. Crispin, he didn't, at that point, Eddie DeZean had played nerds, and, imagine that's what that character kind of would have been in a movie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But Crispin Glover,
he brought
played
a whole
him,
different, yeah.
Yes, grand. Anyway,
yeah.
We're doing River's Edge, and he's grand, and it's operatic. And then I've had occasion to visit the movie every few years. Chris, there was no stranger experience than this, where I took my daughter, who's a writer and a director, and directed a movie with me, but this was before then. And I took my son. At the time, my son was 21 years old, the exact age I was when I made the movie.
Yeah.
And neither of them had ever seen the movie.
Oh, wow.
So they showed it at the Egyptian here in Hollywood, the American Cinematheque. And to watch the movie sitting next to the kid, watching them watch it, it was so surreal. And it played with Blue Velvet. And Blue Velvet, we know, is a great movie, but Blue Velvet is such a time capsule of 1986. But River's Edge, I could take you right now and your listeners to Tahunga, California, and it looks the same. And the kids look the same. And the cars look the same. And the only difference is you'd be hard-pressed to find that payphone that Ione picks up in the scene. But everything else looks identical. So what Tim Hunter did is he made a movie that defies a time capsule.
Right.
It could play, and in the movie now, 35 years later, Crispin's performance is the thing that keeps it going forward. He is riveting in the movie. Yeah. Riveting.
The whole cast.
Keanu.
Yeah.
Keanu too, right.
Right.
And we shouldn't, Keanu, perfect, beautiful. What a beautiful human being he was then, he is now. Ione, beautiful. What a beautiful girl she was. What a natural talent she was.
Yeah.
Then and is now. Tim Hunter just had a great eye.
Yes.
Truly.
I was curious if there's any deleted scenes that maybe you filmed and they didn't use.
No, I don't think any. Back in those days, Chris, we used to do TV takes. They don't do it anymore. I haven't done it since The Fugitive. We did a TV take on some of the shots, meaning you wouldn't say the curse word.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I remember we did I Felt So Frickin' Alive and TV takes.
Okay.
And then somewhere along the way, they lost them. And I remember sometime, I would say about 2000, maybe 1998 to 2000, the movie was, they were putting it on TV, and they had us all come back and re-loop ourselves. So
oh, wow.
Imagine the So now I wasn't just the guy, the married guy. I was the dad of 2 kids.
Yeah.
I was the church going guy, the guy who tried to be a good American. I was all that stuff. So I was even further away from Samson than I was.
Yeah.
And I had to recreate like that timbre in my voice. I don't know if Crispin. I would think Crispin did himself. I don't know if Keanu did himself, because sometimes they bring sound alike.
Yeah. I actually had Joe Estevez on my show, and he did the voiceover for his brother Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now, actually, because they sound so similar.
Yeah, and so now that's funny. Joe's a great friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the Hail Mary, our latest movie. We wrote a part for him in Lucky Louie, but then it was at the height of COVID, and his family felt he should not travel. So, he's in the next movie. But
okay, that's cool.
Nice to have him in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a couple more things on River's Edge. I wanted to ask you about the director Tim Hunter. Did he give you any kind of like freedom to bring any ideas to the role of Samson? Like for example, I know you had the Inside Out Iron Maiden shirt. Like anything like that you came up with?
No, I would love to tell you and your listeners that I'm a super genius, but I was so out of my element with that. Again, you have to understand that while every kid in high school was smoking pot, I was doing a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, trying to live the life of an adult so people wouldn't know how young I was.
Right.
I got very adept at that.
Gotcha.
So I did not, everything in that is Neil Jimenez and Tim Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was just the vessel in which they poured their talent.
Well, you did a fantastic job, and anybody that hasn't seen River's Edge, I highly suggest checking it out. It is just a clinic of great actors, and it's outstanding. And just to speak of some scenes that your scenes with Dennis Hopper by the River's Edge at night, especially. I mean, just brilliant stuff. The interaction between you guys.
He was so. That was an interesting situation too, because I had to work in the day stuff at the river, and the night stuff at the river, which we did the big scene over 2 nights, I believe. So I was working, those would have been 13, 14, 15-hour days. By the time I got to my stuff at the river, I had already been on the set in Sacramento for, many hours. I remember all of it. I remember how it smelled. I remember him. I remember Dennis when he had to cry.
Yeah.
He said something to me that an actor doesn't generally share. I didn't know how precious the information was, and I think because of the time that's gone by, I think it's okay to say it. He told me he was thinking of Natalie Wood, who obviously he loved. And that's the thinking. And she had contextually, she had just died. Mm-hmm. She just drowned.
Yeah.
So that was a thing. When the movie came out, people said this is the Rebel Without a Cause for the 80s. This also goes to our, this conversation. So Rebel Without a Cause and River's Edge were 2 movies made approximately 30 years apart. And they're 2 different worlds. It's not even, the 50s to the 60s, the 70s to the 80s.
Right.
It was an extremely different world. It's just crazy. But yes, I think they were right about it, because all of us went on to very fruitful, busy, exciting careers. Could you have looked at Keanu then and said he was a movie star? Hell yeah, you could have.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Absolutely. Why not him? He's a good guy. Let him be a movie star.
Right.
I was never going to be a movie star in those terms, and Crispin was never going to be a movie star in those terms. But yes, let Keanu have it. Yes. And by the way, if anybody's listening, Keanu, John Wick 4, don't you need a side guy?
Oh yeah, definitely. You should definitely be in that with him. That would be awesome.
Would that be awesome? Those movies, that first John Wick movie was this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I remember John Wick, or the first time you saw Taken. God, you were like, what am I watching? This is brilliant. Like, because sometimes you just want a movie to entertain you. That's all you needed to do.
Do you ever like look at one of those movies and go, man, I wish I could have been in that, or I could see myself in that part?
No, 100%. But yes, I see movies and I wish I see directors like Taika Waititi. One day, maybe 2-3 years ago, I'm washing my car, which is something I like to do for, I might be having a day that, when you're making films and putting the post-production and everything, you can be a little stressed by everything. Yeah. So I go and I spend $5 and I like the brush that you wash your car with when the soap comes out. I'm a very simple person. And this guy, I'm getting some change to buy, the air freshener that looks like a tree. That's all I want, Right. I have a very simple life. I need $1 to buy that air freshener, and can't change it. This guy goes, "Hey man, I know who you are. You used to star in movies in the 80s. As an actor, you could take a lot, and you do. You take a lot. People say, gosh, you look so much heavier now, or you look so much older, or whatever they say that's horrible. Yeah. But they don't know it's horrible because they're nervous or they want to just make conversation, and you don't let it harm you.
Yeah, right.
But this guy said, you used to star in movies in the 80s, and I went, brother, I starred in a movie last week. I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah.
Come up with something at least more pleasant.
You got to just ignore that stuff. But
I mean, look, you're out there doing this, and here you are creating content, and like if you're talking to actors like me or Joe Estevez, you're bringing, you're having unique guests that don't normally. I mean, I do maybe more so than Joe. I do a lot of this kind of stuff, but you're getting a perspective that's not, Brad Pitt's perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
A much more, in my opinion, a much more real perspective.
Well, I mean, and Brad Pitt, dude. I mean, like, let's say, I remember my buddy Randy Johnson, who wrote Dudes, was writing something for Joel. What was his name? Oh, the guy who did The Predator and all that stuff. Anyway, that guy. And they had Tales from the Crypt on, and there was for a moment in time in HBO, there was another show that was like Tales from the Crypt, but it was like an action-adventure show that was based on an action-adventure comic. He showed me a thing. He goes, where do you see this guy? He showed me Brad Pitt in this thing that nobody had seen yet because he had a screener of it and it hadn't aired yet, of Brad Pitt playing a younger version of a guy in a car or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And you could, again, it's like Keanu. You could watch that and you go, well, this kid's a movie star.
Oh, yeah.
This kid's a movie star. Like, I don't need to be a rocket scientist. This kid, I don't know who this kid is.
Right.
And then, then he was a movie star. So I'm sure he had an interesting journey. But
I'm sure he did too. I just was referring to the fact that, like, a person of his magnitude of celebrity, I don't know that he'll do many interviews that, are very, exposing because, the publicists and things are trying to shield them and stuff.
They control all that.
Right.
You just have to have I mean, look, if you're going to call a guy like me up, I'm going to say what I think and feel. And I don't, mostly these celebrities use whatever platform they have to, tell common people who don't make $10 million every 5 minutes how to think or what to wear or how to vote.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's ever been on the agenda of an entertainer.
Right.
I wish celebrities didn't do that. They kind of ruined it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, it does get hard to even watch some movies from celebrities that are just so outspoken after a while, and it's
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you try to separate the two, but it's hard.
But it's
sometimes.
hard, and I'd say either way. I mean, I don't think it's anybody's place to tell any other American anything about how to feel, how to vote, how to do it. Like that's such a personal decision,
right?
And when I mentor actors, and they tell me that no, the whole point of this is that, and I go, no, the whole point of this is, to experience this gift that you were given potentially, and to share it with others. That's all. It's your gift, not your opinion. Nobody needs to know your opinion. My whole hope is to entertain people.
Right. I definitely wanted to mention your movie, The Late Shift. I mean, I watched it again. I saw it a long time ago. And then I just rewatched it, and boy, is it good. I mean, you play Jay Leno. This movie is, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's basically telling the story of when Johnny Carson was going to leave The Tonight Show, and then Letterman and Leno kind of, who's going to get the job. So you play Leno in the movie, and just outstanding. And John Michael Higgins, who plays Letterman, fantastic as well.
Terrific actor, like great guy. And again, we had the greatest director, Eddie Thomas.
Yeah.
So Bill Carter, who wrote the book, wrote the screenplay. So you had like the top-notch talent involved. And by that point, it's interesting. Like, by that point, I was a much more versatile human by the time The Late Shift came, which was right before my daughter was born. And in fact, Gracie became a big fan of Jay Leno, and when he was going off the air, whatever that was, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I can't remember.
5 years ago or so, yeah. She said, "Could you get us tickets?" Well, he's always been very good to me. I said, Sure, let's go. So we're talking to him after the show. We're standing, on stage, took some pictures, and he goes, "Hey, Danny, when was that movie?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, Jay. Oh, when do you have this kind of thing? Do you want to know how long ago the movie was?" I said, "It was this person ago," pointing to Grace, because she was born the day after we finished shooting.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
So I mean, when you got, when you heard about that role, now I got to ask you, like, Letterman and Leno, this movie came out in 96. It premiered on HBO. Like, they were, both big time still at that time. Did you kind of like think this might alienate me from getting, cast on, or not cast, but as a guest?
Yeah, no, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, so Wayne Rice, the same guy from, who got me into River's Edge 10 years earlier, the manager, he said, "I want you to read this thing because it's pretty great, and I think that you could do this." So I read it, and, my first thing I said was, "I'd rather read to play Warren Littlefield. It's the better part."
Oh, wow.
And Wayne Rice, in his infinite genius, said, "Roby," that's what he called me, "Warren Littlefield's not going to be on the movie poster."
Right.
That's a true fact.
Yeah.
So I went in, and, it was a couple auditions. And then when I was doing the movie, you know what Betty Thomas said to me? She goes, "Bunky," and that's what she called everybody, Bunky. She goes, "Bunky, I got to tell you, we had no other choice. We had no other choice." But then we're on the set the very first day, and a fellow who was in the background says to me, because I'm just, as you can imagine, a person just likes being there, and I interact with people and talk. But the guy says the strangest thing. He goes, "I do a Jay Leno. I tried to get an audition for this. They wouldn't read me. How did you get this part?" Like, he's mad at me. And I had the wherewithal to say, "Can I tell you something? The strangest thing happened yesterday." So I didn't have this part. And I was an extra yesterday, and the guy they hired couldn't really do a good job. And they said, "Did anybody else do a Jay Leno?" And I raised my hand, and here I am. And the guy goes, "Are you freaking kidding me? Yesterday?" And I said, "Yes, I'm kidding." Like, I'm standing there, like I'm wearing a makeup that took 4 hours. Like, I just got cast yesterday.
Yeah.
To do this. Oh, what a,
Yeah.
Maybe I got cast because I'm a TV movie star, mister.
Yeah, but that was the other thing that made your performance so great, as well as Higgins, was that, you guys, there's plenty of people who do imitations and, Jay Leno impersonators and Letterman impersonators, but you guys, you didn't play them as caricatures. You played them.
No, we performed. Yeah, we're actors. And again, okay, here we are again. I'm my scenes are with Kathy Bates, for God's sake. I better be good. If not, like, it's Kathy Bates. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, amazing experience. But again, now that was the beginning of what I saw every reviewer snarked about the makeup. And the makeup, I said it then and I'll tell you now, is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell that I'm wearing makeup. They only knew I was wearing makeup because they knew that the guy on Matlock didn't look like that. It was just snarky, douchey,
right?
Saying something douchey instead of saying what these guys had to pull off. The mountain that he and I had to climb every day.
Yeah.
And every morning I would, my wife would tape I was working 16 hours a day because of makeup and everything. My wife would tape the monologue for me, and I'd listen to the monologue from the night before in the car on the way over. And there was a problem was I was playing Jay Leno 4 years before that, not that. But I think we couldn't have done better. It's a great movie. When I was 12 on my journey when I was 12, I was an impressionist. And that's what I did. I did talent shows as an impressionist. And my mom, because you'll never have a better agent than your mom, loved me. And she took me to see Rich Little at the Valley Forge Music Fair in Devon, Pennsylvania. After the show, he signed a book for me. And when I came to the set and we were both being made up at the same time, I said, I brought something, Mr. Little, for you to sign. And he was like, oh, my God, how do you have this? And he wrote to Dan, I always knew we'd end up working together. Makes me want to cry. I mean,
that's amazing.
And there we were 20 years later, and we were like, I'm meeting him as a boy, and then 20 years later, we're working together, doing impressions. And I think, Chris, that God is so good that he gives us all a vision of our future. Because I knew I would be on TV. Chris, when I was at that same age, 11, 12, 13, I was a clown in a circus. And what kind of clown was I? Out of the blue, I decided I wanted to be a vampire clown. And the vampire clown needed a name, and I came up with the Count was his name.
Uh-huh.
The vampire clown named the Count. The funny vampire named the Count.
Uh-huh.
When Rob asked me to be in the Munsters, and, it was to play this funny vampire, Grandpa Munster, and he said, but in the script I'm sending you, the character's not named Grandpa. It's named the Count.
Oh, wow.
So I have been preparing for all of this forever.
And I wanted to mention, you were talking about the Munsters, the new Munsters movie, which is directed by Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, clearly known for some dark movies and stuff, but I understand that this is going to be rated PG, huh?
Well, Rob Zombie is known for dark movies because that was the material that he was hired to direct in the past.
Right.
He didn't make Halloween. He didn't make Halloween about murdering people. Halloween was already about murdering people. So Halloween 2 was already about murdering people. So his Halloween 2 is about murdering people. The Munsters is a completely different thing. Rob loved the Munsters. He's always loved the Munsters. And because he's an artist and a writer and I almost said a provocateur, but that's got nothing to do with the Munsters, maybe some of the other stuff. Like, he brings his art to it, just like Tim Burton brings his art to, whatever.
Right.
Willy Wonka or, Planet of the Apes or this or that. And, you like it or you don't like it, but it's his, and he did it. And it's going to be the same with this.
Yeah.
Like it or don't like it, doesn't matter. It's Rob's vision that we got to create for him and with him.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to be part of that vision.
And the new poster came out today. Looks fantastic with you and as Grandpa and Sherry as Lily. And who's playing Herman again?
That's Jeff Daniel Phillips. That's
okay.
Jeff has been around for many years. Great character guy, known worldwide as the Geico Caveman.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So good in that ad campaign, and that ad campaign went on for many, 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 many years.
Right. Now you're talking about on the late shift where you had to spend 4 hours in the makeup chair. How many hours in the makeup chair for Grandpa this time around?
Pretty close, 3-ish, 3.5.
Yeah.
Depends.
And
they get the makeup down as the more you do it, the more the great makeup artists find workarounds, or they figure out how they can do two things at once or whatever. It was probably 2.5 hours or a little more in the chair, and then the hair was 45 minutes. The hair took a lot longer because the wig was so extensive.
And what do you do to keep your kind of mind occupied during that time?
Well, I'm a big fan of makeup, and there was a point in my life where I wanted to know that they could really attain the dreams that they want. So I considered being a makeup man. So I love sitting in a makeup chair.
Oh, okay.
We finally, after a few days, we came to the realization that if we made up my ears first and powdered them, I could put in my headphones and listen to music. And we were in makeup at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. We were in makeup very early.
Yeah.
And then when they started painting it, I put on like Meatloaf or something that had a little more energy. By the time we were done, you go, you get dressed, and you're ready to go.
And you, of course, starred alongside Fred Gwynne in the movie Disorganized Crime back in 1989.
Yes. So great.
Yeah.
What a great guy. What a funny guy. Fred always had a very interesting way of, he would say, Danny, I don't know comedy. You know comedy. I don't know comedy. and so that was, and I was pretending to smoke because he did. So obviously he knows comedy, and obviously comparatively, I don't know jack crap about comedy compared to Fred Gwynne. So it was, I don't know, he just had a way of being so great. Man, not any of these moments have been lost on me, how lucky I am that, Fred Gwynne wasn't just a guy I met somewhere or met once or shook his hand or met at a convention. Fred Gwynne was a guy that, we'd spend months together. And that movie, when people watch it, is very interesting because rarely is there this kind of story where how Jim Calf did it was they'd be on a set and then they'd leave and we'd come to the set because we were kind of chasing them like a movie.
Yeah, right.
So like our joke was our chairs said the really good actors, and their chairs I think said the actors or just had their names because Jim Calf would be like, all right, we gotta finish this sequence because the really good actors are coming. And that was Ed O'Neill and me, like the pros from Dover. And we come and, act on the same set sometimes or act near it. Anyway, it was all jokes. Fred Gwynne, jokes. His wife, Deb, was there with him, which was great. She was terrific.
Yeah, that's so cool
great.
that, you got to experience, actually being in a movie with him. And then and now here you are being in the new Munsters movie that really made him famous. And it's very cool.
His Deb, his widow, was very gracious to call me, or to reach out, not call. She reached out. And we talked on the phone then. After they announced that I was casted, you know what she said? Chris, she said, "This would make Fred so happy because he knows how much you loved it."
Oh, that's great.
That's sweet. Well, he signed my Munsters doll, and he drew me a Herman Munster caricature, which are two of my most valued possessions.
He was an artist, yeah.
Oh, great! Yeah, he did. I have some of his original art here too.
Oh, that's cool.
From The King Who Reigned, one of his children's books in my collection. I have two of his masterworks. Who could have thought? Who could have dreamed any of it? I put a video up the other day where when I went to Universal Studios for the first time, right when I got to Hollywood in 1984, I insisted on taking a picture of the Munsters house because I had to see the Munsters house.
Yeah.
People can find that on my social media. And then
I
guess the answer to all of this is, look, my responsibility in earning the role of Grandpa Munster was like preparing for it creatively for a 50-year span of time and working toward the goal of knowing how to play that guy. I could never play it as good as Al Lewis, but I'll play it as good as Daniel Roebuck can play it.
Right. I mean, people really shouldn't compare, you to Al Lewis. I mean, you're not doing an Al Lewis impersonation. You're doing Grandpa Munster.
Yeah, you could compare me to Jay Leno when I'm playing Jay Leno.
Exactly, right.
But I'm playing a character that he happened to play. I'm just the fifth guy to play it.
So we're definitely looking forward to the release of that, which we're thinking fall, but we don't know for sure. But
we hope fall, yeah.
And then one of the last movies I want to ask you about, I mean, there's a million we could talk about, but for the sake of this interview, was a movie called Soaked in Bleach, which I guess it was, what do you call that? It's sort of like a documentary slash reenactment.
Yeah, like it's a narrative film / documentary, I guess.
Right. And
made by a very talented first-time director who Ooh, nailed it. It's so good.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, it's about basically the death investigation of Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, who and Daniel here played the real life private investigator Tom Grant in the film.
Yeah.
And you did the reenactments where, you know, you were questioning Courtney, and they would splice in the like real audio tapes too.
Yeah, it was something. So here's a story for you. So I go to pick up. I'm playing a real guy. Now, maybe you don't know who Tom Grant is, or people don't know what he looks like, but it's like playing Jay Leno. I'm playing a real human being.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I have complete access to him for the entire time we're shooting.
Yeah.
And I pick him up at his hotel, and we go to like an IHOP, and that takes about 7 minutes to drive there. And we're having a conversation, and when we're waiting for our table, he says, Dan, you know, you use a lot of words. Because I was, you know, actors, we get in a very bad habit, and I'm trying to get out of it, as you might be able to tell on this interview, of not saying, you know, naughty words. Because, you know, I don't need to reduce my intelligence by that. I'm trying, but it's hard. Yeah, it's how we communicate on set. It's how, you know, you can tell that because when an actor goes up on the line, the very first thing he doesn't say, gosh darn it. He says something else.
Right.
So I'm talking to him on the way, and then he says, Tom Grant, he goes, I know you're not playing me as me. I know you are an actor who gets to create the version of me that's going to be in a movie. I've been around long enough to know that that's kind of why they hired you, because you're the kind of actor who could bring someone to life. He said, but these words that you use are words that I would never, ever use in my vocabulary. And I had my epiphany at that moment was everything that we're saying in this movie is 100% real.
Yeah.
Because this guy standing in front of me is a 100% bona fide good person. And this guy is a Boy Scout, and this guy wouldn't lie. And that's what I got out of that. Now someone might say, well, I don't really care what people think. I'm telling you, in the moment, the realization I had was, shoot, it's all real.
Right.
Everything they're promoting is true.
Yeah.
It's a weird, uncomfortable, strange cover-up.
Right.
It's out of character for the guy. Look, if I killed myself and someone said, I know for a fact that he was depressed, they'd be lying, because I'm not depressed.
Yeah.
I'm the happiest person I know.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, what a dork I would be if I wasn't happy based on everything that we've said previously in this conversation.
Right. Yeah. And I know, I mean, I'm a big time Nirvana fan, and I followed the whole story. And so I knew Tom Grant. I've seen him in other, you know, interviews and stuff. And I thought your portrayal was really great. And you really told the story of, you know, this cover up very well. And I just thought it was, I think a lot more people should see it, especially if, you know, you kind of know Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. You know?
Yeah. If you're into it, you should definitely see it. It certainly changed my mind, because I remember when Kurt Cobain died, I knew his music, but I wasn't listening to it every day. But I knew his music, obviously, because it was part of our popular culture. And my reaction when he died was anger at somebody who had so much and had the kid.
Right.
How dare this person do this? You know, I know we need to have sympathy. We have to have sympathy. Some people, I've lost people in my life who are younger, who did not have the means or the point of view or the intelligence or whatever to like know that there was so much more to life.
Yeah.
But when, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman dies because he's doing drugs, I think you idiot.
Yeah.
What else could you have given this world? Plus, he had a kid.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And
you know, I just don't get it. But here, Kurt Cobain, I was mad at him, and now what if maybe it wasn't him?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Exactly. And I don't know if you know the name Roebuck.
I am sorry that I don't. Pull it out. Why?
He was a punk rocker. He's been a frequent guest on my show, and he was actually Courtney Love's, like, he was one of her the first rock star that she set her sights on to try to, achieve fame. But he's really said some riveting things about her as a person, and it's pretty frightening stuff, really.
Yeah, I don't know her personally, so I can't speak to that, but I can speak to knowing Tom Grant, and I can also speak to the information put forward in that documentary.
Yeah,
it is hard to, the simplest fact that's the mind blower is the guy has so much drugs in him.
Right.
He couldn't possibly have pulled the trigger.
Right.
So, right there you win. I don't believe the scenario at all. And we know the gun was immediately destroyed.
So
and
go ahead.
The police department there have admittedly made many mistakes.
Right, yeah, and one of the chiefs at the time was later let go because of his cover-ups and things. So the documentary Soaked in Bleach really exposes a lot of stuff, and I think people should see it and open up the investigation again. Why not? So, and it's interesting, hearing from you, the lead actor who portrayed Tom Grant in the film. You kind of came in with one notion, and then the more you heard, you really changed your mind. So that's really interesting to hear.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So, just to end on maybe a little brighter note, I let me mention real quick your role in King of Queens in the episode Court Date. I'm a big King of Queens fan. I think it was one of the last great, real funny sitcoms. So, how was that experience?
So great. So Leah Remini and Kevin James, so great. Obviously, my stuff was mostly with Leah. And I had met her before. She did a pilot with Marsha D-Line, who stars in the movies that I make. So I had met her. She was so great and nice. And then that storyline is so, that whole scene where they're trying to get her to wear something sexier to go on a date. Him and Patton Oswalt. It's just so dumb. But I had a great, and that was the first season of that show.
Yeah.
So, they had not yet become the powerhouse. I missed those days, those sitcom days.
Yeah.
After that, I had a Minute with Stan Hooper with, the late great Norm Macdonald. What a great freaking guy he was. Holy Lord. But those sitcom days, all we have really are the Disney Channel, which is, they have their way of doing that is hyper real. And I do them and I love them and I just love working. So if it's the hyper real Disney Channel, if it's Grandpa Munster, if it's a faith-based movie or if it's a drama like I just finished, you can count on me to do anything because I've learned how to do everything. I do miss just the classic network sitcom that was just 3-camera, classically shot, fun. There's nothing like that. Nothing.
I agree. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. That's why I said
King of Queens was terrific.
And like you said, you could kind of do everything in these roles in these movies. That's why I said you're very versatile at the very start of this interview, and you're still rocking and rolling these days, and you got a lot of stuff. You keep adding to that filmography, which I love to see.
I thank you. I'm trying, and I please invite your listeners to go to a channelofpeace.org, just like it's like the hand make me a channel of your peace. Our organization is called channelofpeace.org, and we make these kind of faith-based movies, and we do them through the help of people who believe in our cause. At this point, I don't take any salary, nor does my wife or my daughter. At some point, maybe I'll figure out how to do that because I don't know that's good economics. But we put the money into the other talent, and we put it on the screen in the movies. And Getting Grace was extremely positively received by nearly everybody who saw it. And Lucky Louie is coming out hopefully later this year, I think October. And that's a nice, sweet mystery. And then we have the Hail Mary, which is like the Hail Mary, I think it has great commercial potential because it's an underdog story. And we love underdog stories. And I hope and pray and feel that like someone will see the potential in this. There's a trailer for Lucky Louie there and a great piece about the making of the Hail Mary. So please check it out.
That's great. And I will leave a link so you guys could easily click on that and see what that's all about.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Hey, Daniel, I really do appreciate you coming on the show, man. This was a lot of fun talking with you.
All right, Chris, you have a great day. God bless you and yours. And I'm sure our paths will cross again.
Thank you. God bless you as well.
All right, thanks,
All right,
buddy.
take care. Bye-bye.